How's it going,
Hello,
guys?
everyone. My name is Robin Dolezal, and with me today is Dan Nentel and Alex Pars. Not coming to you live today from the Ironwood Financial Studios. We are having some bandwidth issues. If you've missed any of our videos over the last, how long have we been doing this now, Alex? Is this 3 or 4 weeks?
Feels like years.
Gosh, it doesn't feel like any of these videos. You can find them right here under our video tab on Facebook or our website, ironwoodfinancial.com. So, fellas, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you guys. I hope you guys have a really good weekend. We're going to talk about reopening of America, and looks like we've got a possible cure maybe, so we'll talk about that. But before we get started, I guess I was going to say as people trickle in, but we're not really going live, but we'll still share the fun or interesting stories that we were planning. So, Alex, we were talking about this morning about the leased cars. So walk us through that one, because it's interesting anyway.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny one where someone was trying to return their leased BMW because the lease had ended. So he took it back to the dealer, the normal process. And then when he got there, they said, no, sorry, we're full. We won't take your car. Which he said, okay, what do I do now? Because the contract says you take the car. And I don't want it anymore because I'm not driving. I don't want to pay the insurance. I don't want to pay the registration fee. And they said, sorry, we're just not taking it. And there's a couple of anecdotal stories of other dealerships doing similar things. It just shows you how screwed up things are right now.
Right. And when you say that they're full, what do you mean by full?
Literally, their lot is full. They haven't sold enough cars.
They don't have anywhere to park the car.
They don't have a place to park the car.
Well, that's
free storage.
Yeah. All right. Give us another one, Dan.
Again, this is more about how just crazy how the COVID-19 has just devastated as far as life as we know it, and hopefully we'll talk about it opening up. But an article I saw this morning, just looking up different financial ideas, and they compared April 15th of this year's travel to April 15th of last year's travel. So everyone who travels through an airport goes through the TSA security point, and by doing that, they keep track. So 2 days ago on April 15th, we had 90,000 people jump on an airplane and say, let's travel somewhere for essential travel. They showed these two nurses that were flying to New York in LaGuardia, and they were the only ones walking through the terminal. Again, they were going to help with the pandemic. Compare that to April 15th of 2019. We had over 2.3 million people traveling on a normal day.
Wow.
So to put that in perspective, compared to life as we knew it, the new normal is people travel about 4% compared to, or 96% less than a normal travel day.
So you can pretty much round that 4% to zero, the way the airlines are looking at it.
Yeah. Can you imagine walking through an airport like that and seeing, all the stores are obviously closed and there's no one there. You walk through going, am I actually supposed to be here? Are they actually going to let me on?
Oh, it's got to be eerie.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dana, let's start with you because we talked about this a little earlier this week, but let's talk about the president's plans to reopen.
Very good. So, and when we were kind of preparing for this, Robin, you asked the question, and maybe I shouldn't, but how did they come up with this plan? And reality is the world has been working together. Realize the President Trump has decided not to fund the World Health Organization for a bit, but reality is the world has been working together with the WHO to come up with a plan. Israel started their plan yesterday. Germany is supposed to start a very similar plan on May 1st. And so this plan is a 3-phase where Israel was 4. The key about this, again, it's called the Opening Up America Again, or the OUAA, as you'll see the acronyms coming up.
That's catchy.
It is catchy. And again, they're trying to get the economy back to work. We need, for capitalism to flourish, we need people to get back to work. And people, I'm guessing, want to get back to work and are sick of the quarantine and shuttling in their house. But the key that you have to understand is there's 3 phases. And in order to enter any one of the phases, you have to prove or show through documentation that you have a declining documented cases. So that curve that we keep talking about, you have to flatten the curve. Well, the curve has to actually be declining, going down. Or you have to show a decreasing percentages of tests that were positive. If you can show that over a 14-day period where the curve line is trending lower, you can enter the first phase. And the first phase is just trying to get people some semblance of normalcy, even though it's going to feel weird. It's a limited group of businesses, like restaurants, movie theaters are allowed to reopen, schools are not. They still have to practice social distancing. So imagine you're going to a restaurant, no tables can be within 6 feet of you. I don't know what you do about the server placing food down. Movie theater, you go to movie theater, yeah, they're going to have a situation where no one can be within 6 feet of you. Again, the social distancing. So it's going to be eerie, but, and as Alex said, how excited are we going to be to go to a movie theater right when they open us up? So that is going to be a slow process. But once we've entered phase 1, then you have another 14-day process where you keep track again because they're worried about spiking the COVID-19 back up. You have another 14 days of keeping track. And at the end of 14 days, if you can prove again that the cases have decreased or the positive tests have decreased, then you can enter phase 2, which is amazingly enough, schools reopen. A non-essential travel can return are kind of the 2 biggies. They probably do a little bit, restaurants will start with only having, a third capacity. Maybe they go to a 50 capacity. We'll now at this point allowing groups of 50 or more to gather, which is how they're going to lump the schools in there. But I keep thinking to myself, this might be great for those seniors that, pretty much missed half their senior year and getting excited to head out into the world. And maybe they can at least go to school for a couple of days, at least in Arizona. The earliest that would happen would be around May 21st. So maybe they could have 1 day of school in Arizona. But, and if we can prove again after 14 days, then we enter the phase 3, which is we're kind of open. Vulnerable people or people that have health conditions can resume public appearances. Sports are supposed to start back up, however, without any audience. Young kids, the youngsters, I know all 3 of us were wishing our kids could be going, we could go watch our kids play sports. That will open up. And so in theory, that would be around beginning of June if everything went perfectly. And then of course, after every article I've read, there is a caveat that says, and please realize, be ready to go right back to square zero if there's a increase in cases showing up, or probably a bigger concern would be what happens if we get a second wave in the fall as the weather turns a little bit more chilly. But so Wall Street was pretty happy about it today. I mean, President Trump announced with his team after market hours yesterday, and the Wall Street was pretty pleased, had a good day with the idea of maybe, just maybe, we can ever so slowly open up. Again, who knows what that looks like? It's definitely, they keep using the term the new normal. Who knows what new normal means?
Yeah,
But,
and you may have already said it, but what is the earliest date that we're talking?
well, reality is it is a state-by-state decision, even though there's been this past week kind of some humorous banter about who makes the ultimate decision. But reality is this is President Trump's guidelines for the states, and the states have all said that they would use some form of it. And there are, I believe, somewhere between 24 and 27 states that actually qualify and could open next week. Most have said May 1st.
Yeah. And Alex, didn't you say something about Florida?
Yeah, I saw an article yesterday that Florida has started reopening some of their beaches,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
which makes some sense. I mean, I don't know
It
that
goes along with what we said yesterday with the WWE out of Florida opening,
those essential businesses, you need to keep them going.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dano. And Alex, talk to us about the other story that may or may not be a cure or a possible, who knows?
yeah, and the thing to point out about these plans is they're all just plans. This, Dan, you said 6 weeks basically from square one to square final. That's best case scenario, right?
Yeah.
This could be much slower, much worse. And in most of these cases and most of the plans we've seen discussed, they don't let the at-risk populations back into the wild for any time soon. So what we're really hoping for is either a cure or a vaccine. And I keep hearing that the vaccine could be 12, 18, 22 months away. So a cure or a treatment is another, not quite as good, but something we're looking for. Yesterday, we got another piece of news on the Gilead Sciences drug that's been tested. We saw on April 10th that they had done a very limited test. This is another test that wasn't, I don't think, really supposed to be released, but it was released. And they quickly backtracked from saying this is the be all end all. This is just an anecdotal story. that maybe this works. But the good news is it gives us hope for a true return back to normal. And that's something that none of the other plans have given. It's always, okay, we're going to be shut down, and then we go back to just this kind of weird, scared of touching people thing. And then maybe in the fall, we'll go back to lockdown, and this will go on for a year or 2 or 3, who knows, until we get a vaccine. If a drug like this, and we expect to see more studies going out, there's another study going out that's much bigger than the study that was anecdotally talked about yesterday. That study was only about 115 people, and they said of the 115 people that were severely ill, we don't know what that means, only 2 of them passed away, and the rest got better much more quickly than expected. Great news.
And that's with a different company?
That's the same company.
Oh,
But they've got another trial going on that should be reporting at the end of May, I believe, which is 4,000 people. And 4,000 people, maybe including a control group this time. The first one didn't include a control group, but that maybe has some, we'll hopefully get some better news then. And again, the hope is this is not the only company doing this. Other companies are spending billions of dollars to try to come up with a cure, to try to come up with treatments, vaccines, et cetera. Hopefully one of those companies will come up with something so that by the fall, we can go back to life as normal. That's
Right.
really, it's just a hope. It's just a, light at the end of the tunnel sort of thing at this point. Don't bet the farm on it, but it's something we like to see.
Yeah. No, well, that's good news.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you hope, whether it's them or another company, you hope that they do come out with something so we don't have a second wave of this in the fall,
Yeah. On an economic perspective, though, based on the timelines I've seen, unless they, basically say, FDA, we don't care what your guidelines are, this is not going to help the economy in the short run. It's not going to affect that reopening plan. Because it's already May 15th or April 15th or so. We reopen May 1st. We maybe get to stage 2 by mid-May or the end of May.
Right.
They will have just released their next study by that point. That doesn't mean they've gotten FDA approval. That doesn't mean that they've got enough to treat the world.
Right.
So Alex, as we all do, we're all looking for any pearl of wisdom, and so we're all reading everything we can get our hands on. And if I, about 2 weeks ago, if you did a poll of everyone that was an investment professional, it seemed to be as about a 20% bull, 80% bear. Right now, as you look at that, it seems about 35-40% bullish market, saying the market should continue to go up, and the majority are saying, oh no, we're going to retest the lows. This seems like the market's responding is almost like that old cliche of buy on the rumor, sell on the news. Is there any anecdote that says we've tested the lows and now it's Katie bar the door, head straight up?
That would be hard to imagine. Of course, the last 3 weeks has been hard to imagine. Well, then the last month and a half has been hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But what year is it? No, the market has been moving on the virus news. And the virus news has gotten, hey, we flattened the curve, yay. Now we've got a potential treatment, yay. And so the market's very, very happy, but that doesn't mean the economy looks good. The economy continues to suffer. It continues to potentially get worse and worse and worse every day. One thing we talked about yesterday was the PPP. Small businesses, we talked about the people who got the money were the ones with the legal teams, with the accounting teams who were ready 3 days before they opened the program to apply for the money. Who was that? Big established companies with money, right?
Right.
The companies, or big, small companies with money.
Yep.
The companies who didn't get it were the mom and pops, the people. I've talked to many friends who own small businesses and said, hey, have you applied for this thing? Because you're shut down. And they said, I didn't even know it existed. So by the time they were ready, the money was gone. Right now, we're looking at Pelosi and Congress talking about maybe in 10 days, 2 weeks, they're going to vote on another program to fund this further and get the money back into that. So right now, there's still, that means for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, these small businesses who are shut down will continue to have no revenue, no ability to pay, employees, rent, et cetera, except for from reserves. So the concept that the 22 million people that have been laid off in the last month, immediately go back to work May 15th, June 1st, you name it. Some of those jobs aren't going to be there. Question is how many at this point. So
Right.
we're really counting on the government to come through and keep those businesses afloat, not just, the businesses with deep pockets, the businesses with no pockets.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Well, gentlemen,
if this cure were to happen, I've noticed in our investment policy meetings every morning, we've gone from buying some stocks of companies that we know will be in business to, wow, this may happen, and we've been looking for really beat up industries to try to profit from. You think that's going to continue, or is it just based on the news over the weekend?
Well, obviously this world changes by the minute at this point, but at this point, yeah, we are looking for bargains. Some of the things have really been driven up, tech stocks, et cetera, under the concept that they're going to be fine regardless of what happens. Other companies have really been driven into the dirt, oil companies, airlines, et cetera. One thing that we were discussing this morning was, are Americans going to feel comfortable getting back on a plane? What does it take? Well, the governor saying, hey, you can get back on a plane isn't going to cut it.
sure.
Right? What's going to cut it is a vaccine, a treatment, the knowledge that even if you get sick, you're going to make it through, or that you can't get sick at all. So that's where these, this remdesivir or whatever you call it, I can't even say it. That's where that's so vital and so important that we get something like that to get back to the true normal, not just, the new normal, where we're operating at partial capacity.
Definitely something to hope and pray for.
You make a good point. Especially going back to what Dan was talking about reopening, it almost, you wonder if we'll get some false hope, because if 2 weeks goes by and they do that first phase where they open up whatever it is, the restaurants, for example, but no one's really going, but you'll notice the cases aren't increasing. Well, that's just because people haven't been actually going out, and they open up the next phase on, inaccurate numbers. I wonder if we'll see some of that.
And that's very possible. And then, I don't know if this is true, but something I read in the local news said that in our county, we've only tested 200 people in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So how many cases do we have?
Right.
Maybe that's not accurate. Maybe we've tested thousands.
Right.
Sure.
Maybe it's just public. The part that worries me more than that, Robin, is people being cautious. I'm fine with people being cautious. Maybe we've all learned to cook, and I have multiple friends that butt smokers and are learning how to smoke all sorts of fun things. But part that worried me is what happened in Singapore. If we open up and all of a sudden we see a huge spike of new cases, that's going to devastate us. So it's still prudent for us to be cautious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you social distance in the big cities?
I know.
Yeah.
You can open up Arizona, you can open up Wyoming, you can open up all these places, and people being cautious, wearing masks, staying apart. How do you do that in a 40-story apartment building, in a subway?
Right.
So while we may open up most of the country, there's going to be important parts of the country that are going to have much more difficulty opening.
Yeah. Especially the economic parts that
Right.
provide so much. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. This was fun. I hope I had a great week with you guys this weekend, or I hope you have a good weekend. Folks, if you had any questions after watching this, please don't hesitate to send them to us, and we will address those on whatever Monday or Tuesday when we see you again. If you are not a client and you have questions for us, or you'd like us to help you with anything, please, you can reach us on ironwoodfinancial.com or toll free 888-271-4646. Other than that, have a great weekend. Be safe, be happy. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.